The alarm pierced through Sarah's dreams at 6:30 a.m., but her body felt like lead against the mattress. 7 hours of sleep, according to her phone's tracker, so why did she feel like she'd been awake all night? She rolled over, squinting at the Tokyo skyline through her apartment's thin walls, watching salarymen already hurrying to catch trains in the grey morning light. At 35, Sarah had tried everything. The keto phase lasted 3 months. CrossFit nearly broke her knees. Intermittent fasting left her dizzy during client presentations at the marketing firm, where she worked 14-hour days. Yet here she was again, standing before her bathroom mirror, noting how her face looked puffy despite drinking 2 liters of water yesterday, how her clothes felt tighter despite eating salads for lunch all week. Her phone buzzed with a text from her colleague Kenji. "Good morning, Sarah-san. I brought extra miso soup if you'd like some before the morning meeting." She'd always found Kenji's habits peculiar. He was 42, but looked younger than she did. He ate rice at every meal, took 20-minute tea breaks, and somehow maintained the energy of someone half his age. While she survived on protein bars and coffee, he carried a simple ceramic rice bowl to the office, the same one every day, inherited from his grandmother, he'd mentioned once. The irony wasn't lost on her. She lived in Japan, surrounded by people who seemed to effortlessly maintain their health, while she struggled with every Western diet trend that promised quick fixes. Last week's doctor visit had been a wake-up call. Elevated blood sugar, concerning cholesterol levels, and the gentle but firm suggestion that her stress hormones were significantly elevated for someone her age. On her commute, she watched elderly Japanese women walking slowly through Ueno Park, their movements deliberate and graceful. They weren't rushing to gyms or counting steps on fitness trackers, yet they possessed a vitality that seemed to emanate from within. Something about their rhythm felt different, unhurried but purposeful. That evening, as Sarah sat in her apartment eating takeout while scrolling through her phone, she noticed Kenji's rice bowl sitting on her kitchen counter. He'd left it behind after their project meeting. The ceramic was smooth and cool against her palms, smaller than any bowl she owned. Inside, a tiny amount of rice would look substantial, she realized. Her own dinner plates were enormous by comparison, demanding to be filled. She thought about Master Chen from a documentary she'd watched months ago, how he'd spoken about eating until 70% full, about the gentle architecture of ordinary moments. Maybe the secret wasn't in extreme measures, but in something quieter, something her tired nervous system could actually sustain. For the first time in years, Sarah felt curious instead of desperate about change. If you've ever felt tired even after a full night of sleep, or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar, and stay with us for the next chapters. The next morning, Sarah found herself standing outside Kenji's office at 7 a.m., holding his ceramic bowl. Through the glass door, she could see him sitting quietly with a cup of tea, not checking his phone or rushing through emails like she usually did. The scene looked almost foreign in their high-stress office environment. "Kenji-san? I have your bowl," she said, knocking softly. "Ah, Sarah-san, please, come in. Would you like some tea?" She accepted, settling into the chair across from him. The tea was warm and grassy, nothing like her usual morning coffee that left her jittery by 10 a.m. "I've been wondering," she began hesitantly, "about your eating habits. You always seem so balanced. I've tried everything, keto, paleo, intermittent fasting, but I still feel exhausted." Kenji smiled, cradling his own small cup. "My grandmother used to say that rushing through meals is like trying to fill a bucket with holes. The food never satisfies properly." He explained how he'd grown up eating slowly from small bowls, taking 20 minutes for each meal, stopping when he felt satisfied rather than full. No counting calories, no forbidden foods, just attention and rhythm. "But don't you get hungry?" Sarah asked. "At first, yes, But my body learned new signals. In Japan, we have a saying, hara hachi bu, eat until 80% full. It's not about restriction, it's about listening. That evening, Sarah decided to experiment. She served her dinner in Kenji's small bowl instead of her usual large plate. The portion looked abundant in the ceramic vessel, though it was probably half what she normally ate. She put away her phone, turned off the TV, and simply focused on each bite. Halfway through, something strange happened. Her mind, usually racing with work thoughts, began to quiet. The rice tasted sweeter when she chewed slowly. The steamed vegetables had subtle flavors she'd never noticed while eating hurriedly in front of screens. For the first time in years, she felt satisfied rather than stuffed after dinner. Her usual evening snack cravings didn't appear. She fell asleep easier, without the heavy, uncomfortable feeling that typically followed her large meals. The next morning she woke up feeling lighter, not just physically, but mentally. Her reflection looked less puffy, though it had only been one day. Something about the ritual of small portions and slow eating had shifted her nervous system away from the constant fight-or-flight mode she'd been living in. At work, she mentioned the experiment to her friend Marcus during lunch break. "You're eating baby portions now?" he laughed. "Just hit the gym harder, Sarah. That's the real secret." But Sarah noticed how Marcus scarfed down his massive sandwich while scrolling through social media, how he complained about afternoon energy crashes, how he looked perpetually stressed despite his gym dedication. The contrast with Kenji's calm presence was striking. That week, she began borrowing other elements of Kenji's routine, the 20-minute tea breaks, eating at the same time each day, choosing warm foods over cold salads that left her unsatisfied. Each small change felt manageable, unlike the extreme diet overhauls she'd attempted before. Her sleep began improving. The 3 a.m. wake-ups that had plagued her for months became less frequent. She noticed her cravings shifting from processed snacks to simple, nourishing foods. 3 weeks into her new eating rhythm, Sarah sat in Dr. Tanaka's office for her follow-up appointment. She'd been dreading this visit, expecting another lecture about her elevated stress markers and metabolic concerns. "Your blood pressure has improved," Dr. Tanaka said, reviewing her charts. "Still elevated, but trending in the right direction. Are you doing anything differently?" Sarah explained her small bowl experiment, the slower eating pace, the regular mealtimes borrowed from Japanese tradition. She felt slightly embarrassed, as if admitting to following ancient wisdom instead of modern diet science was somehow inadequate. "Interesting," Dr. Tanaka nodded. "Many of my Japanese patients maintain these habits naturally. The nervous system responds well to predictable rhythms and slower digestion. You may be onto something." The validation felt surprising. After years of failed diet attempts, something as simple as changing her bowl size and eating pace was creating measurable health improvements. But not everyone was supportive of her changes. That weekend, her sister Emma visited from California, immediately noticing Sarah's new habits. "Why are you eating like a bird?" Emma asked, watching Sarah serve herself a modest portion in the ceramic bowl. "And what's with all the tea ceremony stuff? You're not even Japanese." The comment stung more than Sarah expected. She'd been feeling good about her progress, but now she questioned whether she was being culturally inappropriate or simply overthinking simple portion control. "I just feel better eating this way," Sarah replied quietly. "You need protein and proper portions," Emma continued. "Have you been working out? You look different, smaller." The conversation highlighted a tension Sarah hadn't fully recognized. Her Western upbringing had taught her that more was better. Bigger portions, intense workouts, extreme measures for faster results. But her body was responding to the opposite approach. Less food, slower pace, gentler routines. That evening, as she prepared her modest dinner in Kenji's bowl, Sarah reflected on the cultural clash she was navigating. American diet culture promised quick fixes through willpower and restriction, while the Japanese approach she was learning emphasized harmony and gradual change. She thought about Master Chen from the documentary, how he'd spoken about the gentle architecture of ordinary moments. Her transformation wasn't dramatic, no before and after photos worthy of social media. Instead, it was quietly revolutionary, falling asleep without digestive discomfort, waking up refreshed rather than groggy, feeling satisfied rather than deprived. The next Monday, Marcus cornered her in the office kitchen. "Seriously, what's your secret? You seem different lately, calmer or something." Sarah considered how to explain that she wasn't doing more, but less, that she was eating smaller portions, but feeling more satisfied. That ancient Japanese wisdom was proving more effective than any modern diet she'd tried. "I'm just eating slower," she said simply. "That's it?" Marcus laughed. "Come on, what supplements are you taking? What's your workout routine?" She realized then how difficult it was to communicate that her transformation wasn't about adding more strategies, but about subtracting the chaos that had been overwhelming her system for years. The small ceramic bowl had become a symbol of a completely different relationship with food, time, and her own body's signals. Would you rather force yourself with willpower or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. 2 months into her new rhythm, Sarah faced her first real test. The company was launching a major campaign requiring 12-hour days and weekend work. Her old pattern would have been energy drinks, vending machine snacks, and eating dinner at 11 p.m. while reviewing presentations. But something had shifted. Each morning, she still prepared her modest breakfast in the ceramic bowl, taking 10 minutes to eat mindfully before diving into work chaos. During the stressful lunch meetings, she noticed how differently her colleagues ate. Marcus inhaling a massive burger while typing emails, others stress-eating donuts during conference calls. "Sarah, you want some pizza?" her colleague Janet offered during a late evening session. "We're all ordering dinner." Sarah looked at the greasy boxes appearing on the conference table, remembering how she used to mindlessly consume whatever was convenient during work crunches. Now the thought of eating heavy food while stressed made her stomach clench. "I'll step out and grab something quick," she said. At a nearby konbini, she bought a simple bento box: rice, grilled fish, pickled vegetables. Back at the office, while her colleagues devoured pizza, she ate slowly from the compartmentalized container, each bite deliberate despite the deadline pressure. Marcus watched her curiously. "How are you so calm right now? We're all freaking out and you're eating like you're at a meditation retreat." The comment made Sarah realize how much her internal state had changed. The constant anxiety that used to accompany work stress had diminished. Her nervous system wasn't constantly activated by large meals, caffeine crashes, and chaotic eating patterns. That weekend, exhausted from the intense work week, she maintained her routine despite fatigue. Sunday morning, she prepared tea and rice porridge in her small bowl, the ritual grounding her after days of corporate chaos. Her reflection in the bathroom mirror showed changes that went beyond weight loss. Her skin looked clearer, less inflamed. The perpetual dark circles had faded, but most significantly, her relationship with food had transformed from a source of anxiety and guilt to something that felt nurturing and sustainable. Kenji noticed the shift when she returned his grandmother's bowl the following Monday. "You look well rested, Sarah-san. The campaign wasn't too demanding. It was intense, but I felt more stable somehow. Your grandmother's bowl helped me maintain my routine even during the chaos." Kenji smiled. She used to say that how we eat reflects how we live. When we eat with attention, we live with attention. When we eat in chaos, everything becomes chaotic. That afternoon, Sarah's doctor called with her latest lab results. Her blood sugar had normalized. Her inflammatory markers had dropped significantly. The stress hormones that had been elevated for years were now within normal ranges. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up," Dr. Tanaka said. "These improvements are substantial." Sarah stared at the lab printout, amazed that such simple changes, smaller portions, slower eating, regular meal times, had created measurable health transformations that years of intense dieting and exercise hadn't achieved. That evening, she ordered her own set of small ceramic bowls, choosing simple white ones that reminded her of Kenji's family heirloom. As she unpacked them, she realized she wasn't just changing her eating habits, she was redesigning her entire relationship with nourishment, time, and self-care. Standing in her kitchen 6 months later, Sarah had an unexpected realization while washing her small ceramic bowls. The transformation hadn't been about willpower at all. It had been about environment. For years, she'd believed her struggles with weight and energy stemmed from personal weakness. Every failed diet had reinforced the narrative that she simply lacked discipline. But looking at her kitchen now, small bowls instead of large plates, herbal teas instead of energy drinks, a cleared counter instead of clutter, she understood that her environment had been quietly sabotaging her efforts all along. The small bowls weren't magic. They were architecture. They made modest portions look abundant, slowed down her eating pace naturally, and eliminated the need for willpower-driven portion control. Her nervous system had learned to feel satisfied with less food because the visual and tactile cues supported that satisfaction. Her phone rang, Emma calling from California. "I've been thinking about your Japanese eating thing," her sister said. "I tried using smaller plates this week and I actually felt full with less food. How does that work?" Sarah smiled, remembering her own skepticism months earlier. "It's not really about the Japanese part. It's about creating conditions where the healthy choice becomes the easy choice." She'd discovered this principle extended beyond food. Regular mealtimes had regulated her sleep cycle without effort. Eating slowly had reduced her stress levels because meals became brief meditations instead of rushed fuel stops. Warm, simple foods had improved her digestion, which had improved her energy, which had improved her mood. "But you're eating less," Emma continued. "Isn't that just restriction with extra steps?" "It feels like the opposite," Sarah explained. "I eat until I'm satisfied, just in a different container. My hunger cues learn to match my actual needs instead of my emotional patterns." The conversation illuminated how radically her identity had shifted. She was no longer someone who struggled with food or had no willpower. She was someone who ate mindfully, moved gently, and created environments that supported her well-being. That weekend, Marcus visited Tokyo for a work conference and joined Sarah for dinner. She'd prepared a simple meal, miso soup, grilled salmon, steamed vegetables, and rice, served in her collection of small bowls. "This is it?" he asked, eyeing the modest portions. "Where's the rest?" "This is the rest," Sarah laughed. "Try eating it slowly." Halfway through the meal, Marcus paused. "I actually feel satisfied. How is that possible? This is way less food than I usually eat." "Your stomach is about the size of your fist," Sarah explained. "We've been training ourselves to need much more than that." After dinner, Marcus looked thoughtful. "I've been thinking about what you said months ago, about eating slower. My digestion has been terrible lately. Maybe I should try some of this Japanese approach." Sarah realized then that her changes had been quietly influencing others, not through preaching or dramatic before and after photos, but through embodying a different possibility. People noticed her calmness during stressful work periods, her stable energy throughout the day, her absence of post-meal fatigue. The central secret hadn't been a hidden technique or ancient wisdom that only certain cultures possessed. It was the recognition that sustainable change happened through environmental design, not personal transformation. She hadn't become more disciplined, she'd become smarter about structuring her daily choices. 1 year later, Sarah stood in her Tokyo apartment, preparing breakfast in the same ceramic bowl that had started everything. The ritual felt natural now, not a conscious health practice, but simply how she lived. Her reflection in the kitchen window showed a person who moved differently through the world. The chronic tension she'd carried in her shoulders had dissolved. Her skin had a clarity that expensive creams had never achieved. But the most profound change was internal. The constant background anxiety about food, weight, and health had simply evaporated. Dr. Tanaka's latest assessment had been remarkably positive. Her metabolic markers were optimal, her stress hormones balanced, her blood pressure normal. "You've essentially reversed the trajectory you were on a year ago," he'd said. "Whatever you're doing has created lasting physiological changes." The lasting changes surprised her most. She'd expected the small bowl eating to feel like deprivation eventually, but the opposite had happened. Large portions now felt uncomfortable, overwhelming to both her stomach and her nervous system. Her body had recalibrated to a different baseline. Emma had started using smaller plates after their conversation months earlier and reported similar experiences. "I thought I'd feel deprived, but I actually feel more satisfied. It's weird." Marcus had adopted some of her practices too, slower eating, regular meal times, trading his massive lunch portions for more modest amounts. "I don't get that afternoon crash anymore," he'd mentioned. "And I sleep better." Even Kenji noticed the ripple effects. "You've influenced several people in our office to pay more attention to their eating habits. My grandmother would have been pleased to see her bowl creating such positive changes." Sarah had eventually bought her own set of ceramic bowls, but she'd kept one of Kenji's grandmother's pieces, a small teacup that she used for her evening ritual. The warm ceramic against her palms had become a signal to her nervous system that the day was ending, that it was time to slow down and prepare for rest. The most surprising discovery was how the changes had affected her relationship with time itself. Meals were no longer rushed interruptions to her real life. They'd become anchoring points that created rhythm and meaning in each day. The 20 minutes she spent eating breakfast mindfully set a tone of intentionality that carried through her work and relationships. Her apartment reflected the shift too. Where once her kitchen had been cluttered with diet books, protein powders, and complicated meal prep containers, now it held simple tools, small bowls, a quality tea kettle, fresh ingredients that she prepared simply. Friends visiting from America often commented on the calm atmosphere. "Your place feels so peaceful," a college friend had said during a recent visit, "like a retreat center or something." Sarah realized that peace wasn't something she'd added to her environment. It was what remained when she'd removed the chaos of diet culture, extreme eating patterns, and the constant mental noise about food and weight. On quiet evenings, she sometimes thought about Master Chen from that documentary, how he'd spoken about the gentle architecture of ordinary moments. Her transformation hadn't been dramatic or Instagram-worthy, but it had been complete. She'd discovered that the most profound changes often looked ordinary from the outside while revolutionizing everything within. As she finished her evening tea, Sarah felt grateful not just for her improved health, but for the deeper lesson, that sustainable change happened through environmental wisdom, not personal warfare. The small ceramic bowl had taught her that the container shapes the contents, in food, in habits, and in life itself. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes, subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.